picture of you now. 'Cause hopelessly the hopeless we have so much to feel good about. Oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the good life. This could really be a good life, good life. I say, oh, this feeling that you can't find. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. Oh, yeah. A good, good life. Good life. Listen to my friends in New York, say hello. My friends in LA, they don't know where we've been for the past few years or so. Paris to China to Colorado. Sometimes there's airplanes I can't jump out. Sometimes it's bullshit that don't work now. We have got a story. Please tell me what there's to complain about. Woke up in London yesterday, found myself in the city near Piccadilly. Don't really know how I got here. I got some pictures on my phone, new names and numbers that I don't know. Address to places like Abbey Road, day turns to night turns to whatever we want. We're young enough to say, oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the good life. This could really be a good life, good life. I say, oh, this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. To my friends in New York, I say hello. My friends in LA, they don't know where we've been for the past few years or so. Paris to China to Colorado. Sometimes there's airplanes I can't jump out. Sometimes it's bullshit that don't work now. We have got our stories, but please tell me what there's to complain about. When you're happy like a fool, you let it take you over. When everything is out, you gotta take it in. Oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the good life. This could really be a good life, good life. I say, oh, this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. A good, good life. Hopelessly, I feel like there might be something that I'll miss. Hopelessly, I feel like the window closes so quick. Hopelessly, I'm taking a mental picture of you now. 'Cause hopelessly, the hopeless we have so much to feel good about. Oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the good life. This could really be a good life, good life. I say, oh, this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. Oh, yeah. A good, good life, good life. Ooh. what there's to complain about. Yesterday, found myself in the city near Piccadilly. Don't really know how I got here. I got some pictures on my phone, new names and numbers that I don't know. Address to places like Abbey Road, day turns to night turns to whatever we want. We're young enough to say, oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the good life. This could really be the good life, good life. I say, oh, this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. To my friends in New York, I say hello. My friends in LA, they don't know where I've been for the past few years or so. Paris to China to Colorado. Sometimes there's airplanes I can't jump out. Sometimes it's bullshit that don't work now. We got our stories, but please tell me what there's to complain about. When you're happy like a fool, you let it take you over. When everything is out, you gotta take it in. Oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the good life. This could really be the good life, good life. I say, oh, this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. A good, good life. Hopelessly, I feel like there might be something that I'll miss. Hopelessly, I feel like the window closes so quick. Hopelessly, I'm taking a mental picture of you now. 'Cause hopelessly, the hopeless we have so much to feel good about. Oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the good life. This could really be a good life, good life. I say, oh, this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. Oh, yeah. A good, good life. Good life. Listen, to my friends in New York, I say hello. My friends in LA, they don't know where we've been for the past few years or so. Paris to China to Colorado. Sometimes there's airplanes I can't jump out. Sometimes it's bullshit that don't work now. We got a story. Please tell me what there's to complain about. Yesterday, found myself in the city near Piccadilly. Don't really know how I got here. I got some pictures on my phone, new names and numbers that I don't know. Address to places like Abbey Road, day turns to night turns to whatever we want. We're young enough to say, oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the don't know where I've been for the past few years or so. Paris to China to Colorado. Sometimes there's airplanes I can't jump out. Sometimes there's bullshit that don't work. Now we have got our stories, but please tell me what there's to complain about. When you're happy like a fool, you let it take you over. When everything is out, you gotta take it in. Oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the good life. This could really be a good life, good life. I say, oh, got this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. A good, good life. Hopelessly, I feel like there might be something that I'll miss. Hopelessly, I feel like the window closes so quick. Hopelessly, I'm taking a mental picture of you now. 'Cause hopelessly, the hopeless we have so much to feel good about. Oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the good life. This could really be a good life, good life. I say, oh, got this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. Oh, yeah. A good, good life. Good life. Listen to my friends in New York, say hello. My friends in LA, they don't know where I've been for the past few years or so. Paris to China to Colorado. Sometimes there's airplanes I can't jump out. Sometimes it's bullshit that don't work. Now we have got a story. Please tell me what there's to complain about.
And everything is going to the beat. And everything is going to the beat. And everything is going. to the beat. And everything is going to the beat. And everything is going. And everything is going to the beat. And everything is going to the beat. And everything is going. going to the beat. And everything is going to the beat. And everything is going.
Before I begin with my story, I want to point out that this isn't the type of story to make you jump out of your seat. This is, however, a very real and traumatizing story for me. To preface this, I'm a female, currently 18 years old, and live on a ranch in a very secluded small town in rural Iowa. It mostly consists of multiple farms, lands, fields, etc. I've lived there my whole life and even met some of the people in my town who were very respectful, as it's a quiet little town. I won't mention the name of it as I don't want this getting out there, but it has a population of about 2,000 people. This happened during the summer of 2021 and is by far the most horrifying thing that's ever happened to me. For context, I work at a gun store in my town, which is very safe for the most part. However, I always bike to and from work as both my parents worked late nights in the city and couldn't get me until later in the night. Well, one day, my bike had been stolen by someone from the rack right outside of the shop when I wasn't paying attention. I was obviously pissed because of this and didn't bother contacting the sheriff as they really didn't care what happened around here. Most of the time, they wouldn't take thefts seriously and either half-assed investigated them or claimed that they didn't have enough evidence. With the police no longer being an option, I called my dad telling him the situation and he said he'd come by to get me after work. On the way home that day, he's giving me a lecture throughout the whole car ride about how I was careless. That night, I had been on my computer searching through Craigslist to see if I could find an affordable bike to buy. I didn't need a super expensive bike, just one that would get me from point A to point B. Within 20 minutes, I had found one that seemed like a steal. It was a standard bike that seemed to be in great condition and was only $70. The seller was only 15 miles away from the nearest city, so it was a long drive, but it would be worth it. My parents had been at work that night, and with no car, I had taken an Uber to the drop-off spot. When my ride had dropped me off, I noticed a black van parked on the side of the road with its lights turned off. It was the only vehicle in the area, so I could only assume that was him. I messaged the seller, asking if that was him in the van, to which he then said yes and to come over. I ever so slowly walk over towards the driver's side when I see a man roll down his window and introduced himself as Jeff. He had claimed that he was the one selling the bike and that it was in the back of the van. He then tells me I could go ahead and open the doors and just grab the bike. I then thought to myself as to why he wasn't doing it, and when I asked him this, he said that he had a bad knee and that it hurt to walk. Not wanting to pry and too tired to care, I proceeded to walk towards the back of the van where the bike was. As I'm about to open the doors, I can see very faintly from the window a man wearing a vendetta mask staring back at me. The second I noticed him, I instantly knew that this wasn't some exchange and there was definitely no bike. Not making it obvious I noticed him, I told the driver that I didn't need the bike anymore and that he could go. However, I was afraid if he had known I had seen someone else back there and tried my best to stay calm. I start running towards a nearby Walmart when the driver tries negotiating that he'd lower the price. But no matter what he said, I still ignored him, hoping he'd just go away as I knew there was no bike. I approached the Walmart and that's when the van immediately drives away, disappearing into the night. From there, I had spoken with security about the incident and that's when they had called the police. At that point, I explained where I was, what I did, and what was said. As you could imagine, the listing had been taken down, and I never saw it again. I was unable to give a good description of the van, other than the fact that it was black with windows. I had assumed the cops would tell my parents about this, but given that I was 18, the cops couldn't inform them without my consent. I had Ubered back to my house safely, with thankfully nobody following me. Till this day, I'm still unsure as to what that man's intentions were, but they obviously weren't good. I advise anyone thinking to use Craigslist to not do it, as it's not only sketchy but also dangerous. And for those of you who are gonna do it, I emphasize you please bring someone else along with you. It may just save your life. I'm a 27-year-old female, and this happened in the summer of last year. My fiancé and I had just bought a house in the suburbs of Providence, Rhode Island. It's a really nice city with tons of historic sites, museums, and whatnot. My fiancé and I are very into Southern history, which is one of the reasons as to why we moved there. On top of that, the annual pay for my work was double. At the time, we had stayed in an apartment in Atlanta, and we were getting rid of furniture to keep and sell. We had about a month to move all of our stuff into our new home, but we couldn't bring everything. My fiancé and I had put up an ad for our dining room table up on Craigslist for $1,500. It was a really nice table, and we needed the money, so why throw it outside when we could sell it? This would be my first time selling something on Craigslist, as I would always be buying stuff instead. I've never really had any strange encounters while online, but little did I know that would all change. I'd say in an hour, I had received a message from someone who seemed interested in it. I had responded back, asking him when a good time and day he'd be available. He said that he had work during the day, but that he could possibly stop by after and pick it up. We had both agreed around 7 p.m., which was a reasonable time to do the transaction. So 7 p.m. rolls around when I hear a knock at the front door. Upon opening it, I was greeted to a tall man standing feet away from me while giving me an awkward grin. He wore a white tank top, cargo shorts, and a straw hat. His hair was a mess, and he looked as if he hadn't been to the gym in years. He then put out his hand, introducing himself as George. Being nice, I shake his hand and politely show him the dining room table. At first I thought that he was gonna take it instantly, as he seemed very interested when messaging me. However, he began inspecting what I assumed was the condition of it and would possibly try to lowball me as much as he could. He takes a decent look at it for about a couple of minutes before he gets up and says he'll do it for $1,000. I had apologized, telling him that was much too low and that the most I could do is $1,200. The very second I told him this, his weird, unsettling grin began to fade into an upset frown. When I realized he wasn't kidding, his face turned bright red, which clearly meant anger. "Look, lady, I'm trying to take this off your hands. Just give me the damn table." The smell of alcohol in his breath could be noticed as he yelled at me. At this point, I'm freaked the hell out and nervously tell him that if he didn't want the table, then he could leave. He takes a look around my apartment, turns around, and full-on kicks my door open in anger. Not wanting to take a risk, I shut my door and lock it and immediately call my fiancé. My fiancé had been at the store and rushed home as soon as he could. About 10 minutes later, my fiancé arrived where I told him everything, nearly breaking down in tears. He had recommended we report it to the police, but I told him it wasn't worth it as he was gone. Looking back, I really wished I had listened to him. The rest of the day went smoothly until around 1 a.m., when I got a Ring doorbell alert on my phone. The message had read that there was someone outside of my door. When I went to go see who it was, standing there was the same man from earlier, trying to unlock it. This story is told in the perspective of a female. This took place during the fall of 2020 when I had just graduated high school. I attended art school outside of Portland and had just gotten a job at my local Best Buy to pay for my classes and other expenses. Unfortunately, my school wasn't close by from my apartment building, and I'd oftentimes find myself having to rely on public transportation to get me places. I mean, sometimes my friends offered me a ride if they had time, but I'd mostly end up taking the bus. After a very long and stressful 3 months of taking the public bus, I decided that I needed to get a car. Since the start of the pandemic, car prices have skyrocketed due to high demand, and I didn't have the money to afford a brand new one. I looked on multiple car websites for a decent price, but even the used ones were still too expensive. Eventually, I ended up looking through Craigslist to see if I could find a deal, and to my surprise, I actually did. On one of the ads was a used 2004 Honda Civic, which seemed to be in pretty good condition for a car that old. I gave the seller a call, and he confirmed that the car was in perfect condition and there was no accident history. What struck me the most was this guy's accent. Based on his accent, he didn't sound like he was from the States. He sounded Japanese. Thankfully, he had lived in the same city as I was in, and I told him that I'd go over to his house to check out the car after I got off work. I'd also like to note that I had been aware of scams on Craigslist, but based on the reviews, this guy seemed like a trusted seller. After my shift had ended, my friend drives me and we go to the given address that he provided. The house happened to be in the quiet side of town, which wasn't the best area to be in. It wasn't dangerous or anything, but you'd have rundown homes and shady people, and sirens would often be heard a few times a week. You get the picture. Anyway, my friend Sean and I pull up to a house at the far end of the street, and I looked at the address to confirm it was the right house. As I'm walking to the front door, I look to my left, and sure enough, there was the Honda Civic sitting by the garage. I casually walk up to the door and text the seller that I was here while my friend stays behind waiting for me. He then tells me to wait outside and that I could check out the car if I wanted to and that he'll be out soon. At first, I thought this was a little strange, but I didn't think I was in danger or anything. I walk over to the car, and as soon as I get a better look at it, I realized that it wasn't what it showed in the pictures. It was the same car, but I began to notice several problems with it. The front end cover was salvaged, a wheel was missing, and both the taillights had been shattered. At this point, I was furious and annoyed that I wasted my time coming here. I texted the seller saying that I was leaving and that I wasn't interested anymore. This is when shit really starts to get crazy. As I'm backing away from the car, someone from under comes out and throws me to the ground. I'm a 5-foot girl that weighs about 100 pounds, and the guy pinning me down was huge. All the while, I was screaming at the top of my lungs while kicking and doing everything I could to get him off. Thankfully, Sean comes running out of his car and pushes the man off of me and tells me to run. Surprisingly, he had managed to throw a few good punches to the man's head, and we both get in the car and drive off. As we were leaving, I could see at least 5 or 6 people running out of the house trying to chase us, but gave up after a few seconds. Once we felt like we had gotten far enough, I called the police while crying my eyes out and explained what had happened. I gave them the address and they ended up investigating the house, but had found no one inside. Turns out, that house had been vacant for years and nobody was supposed to be living there at the time. Till this day, I still don't know what their intentions were. I don't know if they were going to rob us, try and kidnap me, or something much worse. What I do know is that I will never be using Craigslist again for anything. However, let my story be a lesson for you. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
I would like to extend my sincerest gratitude to my esteemed audience for tuning into another episode of my video series. This true story was submitted by one of my fans, and I hope it will provide you with a valuable perspective on the potential dangers of the dark web, as well as the real-life consequences of our actions on the internet. Once again, thank you for listening, and I look forward to bringing you more horrifying and intellectually stimulating stories in the future. During my college years, I had a friend who frequently accessed the dark web in order to purchase illicit drugs. Despite being aware of this behavior, I had never taken much interest in the dark web myself. But one Monday evening, after completing our final exams, my friend James and I decided to celebrate the end of our second year of college by drinking. As the night progressed, we found ourselves running low on alcohol and decided to explore the possibility of obtaining drugs through the dark web. This marked my first direct experience with the dark web, and I observed the process with great curiosity. As James navigated the dark web, I noticed there were numerous links to external pages. He informed me that he had never clicked on these links as his primary goal was to purchase drugs, and he feared that doing so could potentially lead to him being tracked by law enforcement. In my youthful and inebriated state, I convinced him to explore some of these other links as a means of satisfying my curiosity. There was one specific link that caught my attention as a car enthusiast. It was labeled car parts. As we perused the website, we noticed a button labeled Order Here, and driven by curiosity, we elected to click on it. This decision led us to a new page where we were prompted to engage in further communication with the vendor. To my astonishment, a chat window immediately popped up, displaying a message inquiring about the specific car model we were looking for. In a moment of poor judgment, we entered truck as a response, and within seconds, we received a reply asking for the specific model and year and the required car part. At this point, we found the situation quite amusing and jokingly, so I suggested James to enter your mom as the car model. James, also in jest, responded with the same, so we sent the text and our message was visible in the chat, but there was no reply from the other end. After a brief moment, I impulsively typed a message in the chat that read, "Your mom was with me last night, and I need a part for her because I broke her." A few seconds passed and the message was marked as seen, but there was no reply. We disregarded the chat and resumed drinking for about 10 minutes. Once we finished our last cans of beer, we returned to the chat and asked the person to see if he was there, and we waited for his response. As my friend and I sat in silence, waiting for a response to our message, we were taken aback when the reply finally came through. The message simply read, "Get off my page." We couldn't help but burst out in laughter at the absurdity of the situation. We decided to close the website and reopened it, initiating a new chat to communicate with the person on the other end. James and I pretended that we were in need of a new catalytic converter for my truck and engaged in a dialogue with the person, feigning interest in making a purchase, while entertaining ourselves by pretending to be serious buyers. We knew that it was a dangerous game we were playing and that it could potentially have serious consequences, but the thrill of the unknown and the adrenaline rush of engaging in this type of subterfuge was too alluring. As we continued to converse with the individual on the other end of the chat, it became clear that they were genuinely interested in conducting business with us. They began to inquire about the details of the potential transaction, including the method of payment. At this point, we decided to end the chat because we were getting bored, so we jokingly responded to the inquiry about payment by suggesting that we would use his mom as payment. We knew that it was not a serious or appropriate response, but at that moment, it seemed like the easiest way to disengage from the situation. After our jokingly response, the individual on the other end of the chat stopped replying to us. My friend James, who had originally been interested in obtaining drugs through the dark web, suggested that we stop playing around and get back to the task at hand. He opened up the page where he had previously ordered drugs and began browsing through the various offerings. As we were preoccupied in the process of my friend's search, the chat window for the car parts page unexpectedly appeared on the screen. The window, which had been previously closed, persisted in displaying new messaging, and the chat function began to vibrate and emit a notification sound, drawing our awareness to it. The person on the other end had deliberately prompted the chat window to open in an attempt to regain our attention. Despite our attempts to close the window, it remained open and active, as if the other party had taken control of the function. To both of our disbelief, the message included a pinpoint location. The individual on the other end of the chat sent a message with a smiley face that said, "You have got yourself a nice house, kid. The white Tacoma truck on your front porch looks good, and is that German Shepherd dog yours?" It was at that moment that we realized that the individual had been able to track us not only through the chat but also to our physical location. Out of curiosity, James clicked on the link provided in the message and was directed to a Google map. The link provided a map that displayed a 2-month-old image of my friend's house, complete with the white Tacoma truck parked on the front porch and James' German Shepherd dog in the front yard. It was a chilling realization that our actions on the dark web had led to our physical location being compromised. As we stared at the image of my friend's house, complete with his father's truck and his dog, we were both shocked and speechless. The realization that our actions on the dark web had led to our physical location being compromised was a sobering one. We were both frozen, unsure of how to react or what to say. The thought of responding to the chat, or even engaging with the individual again, was unsettling. As the reality of the situation sank in, we both knew that it was time to close the chat and disengage from the dark web altogether. Despite not having obtained what we had initially set out to, the potential risks and dangers of continuing were too great. We decided to call it a night, and my friend closed the dark web browser. I left my friend's house and went home, still in shock and processing the events of the night. I couldn't help but think about the potential consequences of our actions, and the realization that our actions on the internet have real-life consequences. In the immediate aftermath of the incident, nothing seemed to happen, and we both assumed that the matter had been dropped. However, a week later, my friend began to notice a black minivan with heavily tinted windows driving around his block several times during the night. He had never seen the car before and became concerned as it seemed to be lingering in the area. As the black minivan persisted in traversing my friend's block for a number of days, he began to experience mounting apprehension. In an effort to glean more information about the vehicle, he decided to talk with one of his neighbors about the matter. To his dismay, the neighbor also recounted observing the minivan circulating throughout the neighborhood and was similarly uncertain as to its owner. The neighbor, who shared my friend's unease regarding the van's presence, decided to notify the police on the final night of its sighting. Upon the arrival of law enforcement and subsequent investigation, the van abruptly vanished and has not been sighted since. To make matters worse, after the black minivan had stopped appearing, my friend's German Shepherd dog went missing. The disappearance of my friend's German Shepherd compounded the already mounting sense of concern stemming from the persistent presence of the black minivan. James conducted a thorough search of the neighborhood and distributed flyers in an effort to locate the missing animal. Despite his extensive efforts, however, there were no leads or sightings of the dog after a week of searching, and the possibility of finding the animal began to fade as the days passed. Approximately 2 weeks following the disappearance of my friend's dog, there was a sudden increase in police activity in the alleyway behind his residence. James, along with his neighbors, ventured to the scene to investigate and were informed by law enforcement that they had discovered a deceased dog stuffed inside a suitcase. The animal was in an advanced stage of decomposition and appeared to have been deceased for a week. On top of that, the skin of the animal had been removed, rendering it impossible to identify the breed of the dog or any of its distinct characteristics. My friend, in a state of shock and grief, was able to view the animal and could only confirm that it was a large dog-like creature. However, due to the condition of the body, it was impossible to definitively ascertain whether it was his dog or not. The body was in an advanced state of decomposition and had a putrid odor emanating from it. The sight and smell of the dead animal were both distressing and traumatic for my friend, as well as for the other neighbors who had come to investigate. The police were unable to provide any further information on the circumstances of the dog's death. The animal was never officially identified as my friend's, and the case remains unresolved to this day. Despite our efforts, the dog was never found, and nothing else happened to my friend's family afterwards. But the memory of the events of that night and the following days stayed with us as a constant reminder of the potential dangers of the dark web. The thought of the potential consequences of our actions, the missing dog and the black minivan, continued to haunt us, and it was the last time we ever got on the dark web again. Welcome back to my channel, where I share with you some of the scariest and most mysterious stories from real-life experiences. In this video, I will be sharing a story about a strange encounter that took place during a camping trip in the mountains. This is a story that still haunts the person who submitted the story, and I'm excited to share it with you and hear your thoughts. So grab a snack and make sure the lights are off as we dive into this chilling tale of the unknown. On a beautiful summer weekend, my husband and I decided to take our 2 daughters, ages 6 and 8, on a camping trip to the mountains. We had been looking forward to this trip for weeks, longing for the chance to escape the pollution and hustle of the city to enjoy some peace and quiet in the great outdoors. As we packed up our gear and hit the road, we were filled with excitement and anticipation for the adventure that lay ahead. As we drove up the winding mountain road, we marveled at the breathtaking views that surrounded us. The towering peaks of the mountains rose up on either side, their rugged beauty a testament to the power and majesty of nature. The tension and stress of city life melting away as we drove further and further into the wilderness, and we were filled with a sense of peace and serenity that we had not felt in a long time. Our goal was to camp at our usual spot, a secluded area with a picturesque view of the valley below. However, when we arrived, we were disappointed to find that there are already a few cars there, and we didn't want to be too close to them and potentially disturb their peace and quiet. After some discussion, we decided to continue on and see if we could find another suitable campsite further down the road. Despite the minor setback, we remained in high spirits, eager to explore the area and see what other wonders it had to offer. As we drove on, we passed through dense forests and fields of wildflowers, the air filled with the sweet scent of pine and the sounds of birds singing overhead. It was a magical experience, one that we knew we would never forget. My husband decided to take us off the beaten path and follow a small stream that flowed nearby. He loved to fish, and we always preferred to camp near a water source for convenience and to have a ready supply of fresh, cold mountain water. We drove our sturdy 4x4 truck along the narrow, bumpy dirt road, passing through dense forests and fields of wildflowers. The air was clean and crisp, and the scenery was breathtaking. As we drove along the winding dirt road, the peaceful scenery was suddenly disrupted by the appearance of a deer standing directly in our path. The animal's eyes were fixed upon us as we approached, seeming to bore into our very souls with their intensity. It was as if the deer was trying to communicate something to us, its gaze filled with an otherworldly insight, an understanding that was beyond our comprehension. As we approached the deer, we tried to shoo it away, honking the horn and flashing the headlights in an effort to scare it off the road. However, the animal seemed unwilling to move, standing its ground and continuing to stare at us with those intense, otherworldly eyes. As the moments ticked by, the deer's behavior began to become more agitated, as if it were growing angry or annoyed with our presence. Suddenly, it turned to face our truck and began to charge, as if it intended to ram into the vehicle. We were startled and frightened by the deer's sudden aggressive behavior, and we quickly threw the truck into reverse, backing away as quickly as we could. The deer continued to stare at us, its eyes seeming to bore into our very souls, until finally it turned and disappeared into the trees. The encounter left us shaken and disturbed, and we couldn't help but wonder what could have caused the deer to behave in such a bizarre and aggressive manner. As we continued on our journey, we kept a watchful eye out for any further signs of strange or unsettling activity, unsure of what other strange and unsettling events might be in store for us as we ventured deeper into the unknown. After about 10 miles of off-roading, we came to a fork in the road. Both options looked like they hadn't seen any traffic in weeks. Small pine trees about 2 feet tall were growing in the middle of the road, and there were pine leaves and cones scattered all over. Normally, roads that are frequently traveled are clean and clear, with visible skid marks. My husband wanted to take the left fork, but I insisted on going right because the road seemed to be in slightly better condition. He was eager to test out his 4x4 truck on the more rugged left path, but I was able to persuade him to take the safer route. After about 2 more miles of driving, we finally found the perfect campsite. It was tucked away in a secluded area, surrounded by tall trees and a babbling brook. The soft grass was perfect for setting up our tent, and there was plenty of firewood for a cozy campfire at night. There was a small stream about 30 feet from where we had set up our campfire, and the stream split into 2 smaller branches, with one flowing past the campsite, and the other forming a decent-sized pond next to it. The water in the stream burbled as it flowed over rocks and logs, creating a soothing soundtrack for our trip. A family of ducks was paddling on the surface of the pond, adding to the signs of life in the area. Upon arriving at the campsite, we hastened to set up our tents and prepare dinner. Later, as we sat around the campfire, we told ghost stories to the girls, who seemed to thoroughly enjoy them. As the night wore on, we began to hear faint footsteps in the vicinity of the campsite. Despite our attempts to locate the source of the noise, we were unable to see anything in the darkness. As it turned out, the cause of the footsteps was a deer that had come to stand mere feet away from us as we told our story. It seemed to be listening intently, almost as if it too were captivated by the tales we were spinning. The sudden realization that a wild animal had been so close to us without our knowledge was unsettling, to say the least. Its eyes seemed to glow eerily in the dim light of the campfire, and its gaze was fixed upon us with an intensity that was almost unnerving. It was as if the deer were some sort of ghostly presence, come to check on us in the night. However, things took a turn when my husband jokingly suggested that we make the deer our dinner. At the mention of this, the animal suddenly seemed to become agitated, its eyes flashing with what looked like fear or anger. Without warning, the deer turned and darted off into the darkness, disappearing from sight as quickly as it had appeared. As the night wore on, the animal suddenly let out a loud piercing cry that echoed through the darkness. The sound startled us, causing us to jump to our feet and scan the surroundings for any sign of danger. Despite our attempts to locate the source of the noise, we were unable to see anything in the darkness, and the deer had disappeared from sight. The sudden gust of wind that followed was equally unsettling, blowing gusts of cold air around us and causing the tent to flutter and flap wildly. As the wind picked up, we made the decision to retreat inside and seek shelter from the elements. Despite our initial unease and the strange occurrences of the night, we eventually managed to fall asleep, our dreams filled with images of ghostly deer and other strange, otherworldly creatures. The rest of the night passed uneventfully, and we slowly stirred from our slumber as the dawn broke and the first rays of sunlight filtered through the fabric of the tent. Stretching and yawning, we emerged from the tent to find that the wind had died down and the sky was clear and blue. My husband went down the stream to fish while the girls wanted to play by the pond. I stayed behind to prepare breakfast, but as I was tending to the fire, I thought I heard the girls talking to someone else. The distance and the sound of the stream made it difficult to make out what they were saying, but it sounded like there was another voice conversing with them. I didn't think much of it at the time, assuming that a family or two had set up camp nearby and their daughter was playing with mine. But when I called the girls over for breakfast, I asked them who they had been talking to, and they looked at me quizzically, saying they didn't know what I was talking about. I was certain I had heard another voice, but it couldn't have been anyone else, since we had driven off the main road and were in a very remote location. My husband returned with some freshly caught trouts, and we sat down to a hearty breakfast. As we were eating, the feeling that something strange had happened that morning lingered, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. The evening began to set in, and so my husband decided to go fishing again. He told us that trouts tend to come out to feed just before they go to sleep for the night. Our eldest daughter, who was eager to hear more stories around the campfire, implored him not to be gone for too long. Remembering the precautions we always took when camping in bear country, I reminded him to bring his handgun with him for protection. At about 8:10 p.m., while the girls stayed by the campfire, I set about washing our clothes in the stream. The water was icy cold as the sun disappeared behind the mountains, and the current was a bit calmer at this time. As I scrubbed the clothes against a rock, I thought I heard the same voice that I had heard earlier that morning when I thought the girls were talking to someone. They had told me that there was no one with them at the time, and I had chalked it up to my imagination. But now as I listened carefully, I was certain that there was someone else nearby. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, so I slowly stood up and cautiously peeked out from behind the bushes. My heart was pounding in my chest as I scanned the area, trying to see if there was anyone close by. At first, everything seemed normal, but then I saw something that sent a shiver down my spine. Sitting across from my daughters by the campfire was a woman with long, tangled hair. She was very old, with wrinkles etched deeply into her skin and big thin lips that stretched into a wide smile as she laughed at something the girls said. But it was her eyes that terrified me the most. They were pale and milky, almost as if they were sightless. And every time she laughed, she would toss her hair back over her shoulder, revealing her empty, toothless mouth. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Who was this woman, and how had she found us here in this remote, secluded spot? My heart raced and my stomach dropped as I realized that something was very wrong. I felt a sudden urge to run, to flee from this strange and unsettling presence, but I knew that I had to stay and protect my daughters. Steeling myself, I stepped out from behind the bushes, determined to confront this mysterious and unsettling figure. My religious upbringing had taught me that some beings were not of this world, and as I gazed upon the woman sitting across from my daughter, I knew with a deep certainty that she was one of them. There was something about her, the way she moved, the way she looked at me with those pale, sightless eyes, that filled me with a sense of dread and foreboding. I tried to call out to the girls, to warn them of the danger that lurked just feet away, but before I could even open my mouth, a gunshot rang out from downstream. I turned towards the sound, my heart racing with fear and confusion, and then looked back at the campfire. But the woman was gone, as if she had never even been there. I cried out in shock and terror, my mind struggling to make sense of what had just happened. I ran towards the girls, who looked up at me in confusion, asking me about the gunshot. They didn't seem to have seen the woman, and I knew that I had to get them out of there before it was too late, to escape the influence of whatever malevolent force had just invaded our camp. My mind raced as I gathered our belongings, trying to come up with a plan to get us out of there safely. I knew that we had to be vigilant, to keep our eyes and ears open for any further signs of danger, and to trust our instincts if anything felt off. As the evening wore on, my concerns and anxieties only seemed to grow. Everything felt strange and out of place, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. In an attempt to find some comfort and guidance, I prayed with my daughters. After a few minutes, I saw my husband running towards us from the stream. His face was etched with worry, and he looked like he had seen something disturbing. When I asked him about the gunshot we had heard earlier, he brushed it off and told me it was nothing. He seemed hesitant to say more about it. I also asked him about his fishing trip, but he told me he hadn't had much luck and hadn't caught anything. It was getting dark, so we were all forced to go to bed early. My daughters were disappointed because they had been looking forward to my husband continuing the stories he had been telling them the previous night. Despite my husband's reluctance to tell me what was really going on, I just hoped that whatever it was, it wouldn't come back to haunt us. The following day, my husband was eager to depart as soon as we awakened. He wished to return home to get some rest before work and suggested that we could stop and purchase something on the way back. We hastily packed up our campsite and headed home. During the journey, I inquired about what had truly transpired the previous night and why he had been so jumpy. Eventually, he related to me the full story of what he had encountered while fishing, and this is how his story went. As it was getting dark, he had decided to walk upstream to the campsite where he encountered a mysterious, hairy animal drinking from the stream. My husband was an avid outdoorsman with extensive knowledge of the various big game animals native to our state, and was unable to identify the creature. It was tall and similar to a deer, but its gait was characterized by a crunching noise as it walked. The animal's body was covered in long curly hair, and its most distinctive feature was its wide elongated mouth. As it drank from the stream, its head would tilt back, revealing its white eyes. Fearing for his safety, my husband retrieved his gun and aimed it at the creature. Upon noticing this, the animal glared at my husband before jumping onto a nearby boulder by the stream. My husband fired at the spot where the animal had been standing and missed, causing it to emit a noise of apparent frustration. The creature then began to scream, its cries resembling those of a mountain lion in heat. However, as my husband listened more closely, he realized that the screams sounded more like a woman in distress. Overcome with fear, he released the fish back into the stream and ran back to where we were camping. To this day, we are still uncertain about what my husband saw or what I experienced. I am inclined to believe that the creature my husband encountered while fishing and the one I saw sitting with my daughters are one and the same. In my cultural belief system, there are malevolent spirits that roam the forests, capable of taking on various forms in order to deceive and harm unsuspecting individuals. It is possible that the entity my husband encountered was the spirit's true form, while the one I saw was a reflection or manifestation it used to interact with my daughters. It is a chilling thought, and one that fills me with a sense of unease and caution whenever we venture into the wilderness. Thank you for listening to this true scary story. I hope it gave you the chills and made you think about the mysterious nature of the world around us. These kinds of stories are not just fiction, but real-life experiences that people go through, and it's fascinating to know how people react in these situations. I hope you enjoyed this video, and that it sparked your interest in learning more about strange occurrences and other paranormal events. I would love to hear your thoughts on this story, and if you have any of your own experiences to share. Before I end this video, I would like to say that as an outdoor enthusiast, it is of the utmost importance for my audiences to prioritize safety when embarking on camping excursions. Though camping can provide a thrilling and fulfilling experience, as it allows individuals to connect with nature and disconnect from the distractions of modern society, it is
You say what lies, I say so long.
And everything is going to the beat. And everything is going to the beat. And everything is going.
as we have our backs whenever our foes come by. This time we will win. This time we'll have to join forces. This time we will win. This time we'll have to join forces. Castles and dragons, the battle begins tonight. Are you with me? This is our kingdom and we won't run tonight. We are a team. Castles and dragons, the battle begins tonight. Are you with me? This is our kingdom and we won't run tonight. We are a team. We can do anything together if we just try. And as long as we have our backs whenever our foes come by. This time we will win. This time we'll have to join forces. This time we will win. This time we'll have to join forces.
See me get raw with my southpaw style. See me get raw with my southpaw style. me get raw with my southpaw style. See me get raw. Hey, you, get off my cloud. See me get raw with my southpaw style.
City near Piccadilly. Don't really know how I got here. I got some pictures on my phone, new names and numbers that I don't know. Address to places like Abbey Road, day turns to night turns to whatever we want. We're young enough to say, oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the good life. This could really be the good life, good life. I say, oh, this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. To my friends in New York, I say hello. My friends in LA, they don't know where I've been for the past few years or so. Paris to China to Colorado. Sometimes there's airplanes I can't jump out. Sometimes it's bullshit that don't work now. We got our stories, but please tell me what there's to complain about. When you're happy like a fool, you let it take you over. When everything is out, you gotta take it in. Oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the good life. This could really be the good life, good life. I say, oh, this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. Hopelessly, I feel like there might be something that I'll miss. Hopelessly, I feel like the window closes so quick. Hopelessly, I'm taking a mental picture of you now. 'Cause hopelessly, the hopeless we have so much to feel good about. Oh, this has gotta be the good life. This has gotta be the good life. This could really be a good life, good life. I say, oh, this feeling that you can't fight. The city is on fire tonight. This could really be a good life, a good, good life. Oh, yeah. A good, good life. Good life. Listen, to my friends in New York, I say hello. My friends in LA, they don't know where we've been for the past few years or so. Paris to China to Colorado. Sometimes there's airplanes I can't jump out. Sometimes it's bullshit that don't work now. We got a story. Please tell me what there's to complain about.
The last few months I've been working on me, baby. There's so much trauma in my life. I've been so cold to the ones who love me, baby. I look back now and I realize. Now, remember when I held you? You begged me with your drowning eyes to stay. Now, regret I didn't take you. Now I can't keep you from loving him. You made up your mind. Say I love you, girl, but I'm out of time. Say I'm there for you, but I'm out of time. Say that I care for you, but I'm out of time. Said I'm too late to make you mine. Out of time. If you mess up just a little, baby, you know my line. If you don't trust him a little, then come right back, girl, come right back. Give me one chance, just a little. Baby, I'll treat you right. And I love you like I should have loved you all the time. Now, remember when I held you, you begged me with your drowning eyes to stay. Now I regret I didn't tell you. Now I can't keep you from loving him. You made up your mind. Say I love you, girl, but I'm out of time. Say I'm there for you, but I'm out of time. Say that I care for you, but I'm out of time. Said I'm too late to make you mine. Out of time. Ooh, singing out of time. Said I had you to myself, but I'm out of time. Say that I care for you, but I'm out of time. But I'm too late to make you mine. Out of time. Out of time. Out of time.
Don't you dare touch that dial, because like the song says, you are out of time. You're almost there, but don't panic. There's still more music to come before you're completely engulfed in the blissful embrace of that little light you see in the distance. Soon you'll be healed, forgiven, and refreshed, free from all trauma, pain, guilt, and shame. You may even forget your own name. But before you dwell in that house forever, here's
I can't win, I can't reign. I will never win this game without you, without you, without you, without you, without you. I am lost, I am vain. I will never be the same without you, without you, without you, without you, without you. I won't run, I won't fly. I will never make it by without you, without you. I can't rest, I can't fight. All I need is you and I without you, without you. Can't erase, so I'll take blame. But I can't accept that we're estranged without you, without you. I can't quit now, this can't be right. I can't take one more sleepless night without you, without you. I won't serve, I won't claim. If you're not here, I'm paralyzed without you, without you. I can't look, I'm so blind. I lost my heart, I lost my mind without you, I am lost, I am vain. I will never be the same without you, without you, without you, without you, without you. Bust it.
This here's a jam for all the fellas. Try to do what those ladies tell us. Get shot down cause you're overzealous. Play hard to get, females get jealous. Okay, smarty, go to a party. Girls are scantily clad and showing body. A chick walks by, you wish you could sex her, but you're standing on the wall like you was Poindexter. Next day's function, high class luncheon. Food is served and you're stone cold munching. Music comes on, people start to dance, but then you ate so much you nearly split your pants. A girl starts walking, guys start gawking. Sits down next to you and starts talking. Says she wanna dance cause she likes the groove. So come on, fatso, and just bust the move. Just bust the move. You're on a mission and you're wishing someone could cure your lonely condition. Looking for love in all the wrong places. No fine girls, just ugly faces. From frustration, first inclination is to become a monk and leave the situation. But every dark tunnel has a light of hope, so don't hang yourself with a celibate rope. New movies showing, so you're going. Could care less about the five you're blowing. Theater gets dark just to start the show. Then you spot a fine woman sitting in your row. She's dressed in yellow. She says hello. Come sit next to me, you fine fellow. You run over there without a second to lose. And what comes next? Hey, bust the move. city, ladies look pretty. Guys tell jokes so they can seem witty. Tell a funny joke just to get some play. Then you try to make a move and she says no way. Girls are faking, goodness saking. They want a man who brings home the bacon. Got no money and you got no car, then you got no woman. And there you are. Some girls are sadistic, materialistic. Looking for a man makes them opportunistic. They're lying on the beach perpetrating a tan so that a brother with money can be their man. So on the beach you're strolling, real high rolling. Everything you have is yours and not stolen. A girl runs up with something to prove, so don't just stand there and bust a move. Just bust a move. Break it down for me, fellas. Has a brother Larry. In 5 days from now he's gonna marry. He's hoping you can make it there if you can, cause in the ceremony you'll be the best man. You say Nito, check your libido and roll to the church in your new tuxedo. The bride walks down just to start the wedding and there's one more girl you won't be getting. So you start thinking, then you start blinking. A bridemaid looks and thinks that you're winking. She thinks you're kinda cute so she winks back. And now you're feeling really firm cause the girl is stacked. Reception's jumping, bass is pumping. Look at the girl and your heart starts thumping. Says she wanna dance to a different groove. Now you know what to do, G, bust the move. Just bust the move. Move it, boy.
I just want to come back to those days when I was just a girl, you was a girl. Hey, oh, those days, those dreams. I just want to come back, to come back, to come back. Ooh, I miss it all. I want to feel good better. I miss it all. Ooh, I miss it all. I just want to feel good better. I miss it all. I know where I am, I know where you take me, I know where you take me. I just walk where you're trailing, I'm losing your mind and I'm losing your head. Let me escape from some love, cause I'm a prisoner. I just want to live my way and never back to you.
Ask me what I did with my life. I spent it with you. If I lose my fame and fortune, really don't matter. As long as I got you, baby.
Clap your hands, you're so right. Clap your hands, you're so right. Clap your hands, you're so right.
As long as I got you, baby.
Clap your hands, you're so right. Clap your hands, you're so right. Clap your hands, you're so right.
As long as I got you. Ask me what I did with my life. I spent it with you. If I lose my fame and fortune, really don't matter. As long as I got you, baby.
Clap your hands, you're so right. Clap your hands, you're so right. Clap your hands, you're so right.
As long as I got you, baby.
Clap your hands, you're so right. Clap your hands, you're so right. Clap your hands, you're so right.
As long as I got you. As the years they pass us by, we stay young through each other. And no matter how old we get, it's okay. As long as I got you, baby.
Clap your hands, you're so right.
As long as I got you, baby.
Clap your hands, you're so right.
As long as I got you, baby.
Clap your hands, you're so right.
As long as I got you, baby.
Clap your hands, you're so right.
As long as I got you, baby. As long as I got you. As long as I got you. Take a moment for yourself. Get close with the lights down low. You and I and no one else. I get the feeling that I wanna explode. Baby, you grab my attention. Tension, burning fever high. Take me to another dimension tonight. The rules do not apply. Oh, I can't stop this feeling, baby. Only you can make me come alive. When we're crushing, there's a passion. Boy, you got my heart on overdrive. I can't stop this feeling, baby. Only you can make me come alive. When we're crushing, there's a passion. Boy, you got my heart on overdrive. This is where I wanna be. Hands up, feel the bass in my heart. Give me faith and I will leave. I take the risk 'cause you're never too far. Right now I'm drowning in emotion. Caution flies right out the door. Baby, you're pushing this devotion. I can only ask for more. I can't stop this feeling, baby. Only you can make me come alive. When we're crushing, there's a passion. Boy, you got my heart on overdrive. When my head is spinning, both hands to the ceiling, I begin to come alive. When we're crushing, there's a passion. Boy, you got my heart on overdrive.
Don't break now, the world's locked out. Just close your eyes and we can push them all away.